Labels. We all appear to want labels, and that really isn't any different in the world of witchcraft. Today, I want to talk to you or tell you about the different types of witches that exist under the umbrella of witchcraft. Last night I was reading a book by Jason Mankey called The Horned God of the Witches, and he was talking about all the different belief systems. Now I am going to read an extract from that book because I found it fascinating. But it got me looking into the different types of witches. So I am going to read to you the different types of witches that exist within the umbrella of witchcraft. I only thought it was Wicca and pagan. Stay tuned. So we have traditional witchcraft, rooted in old folk practices, legends and superstitions. Traditional witchcraft often involves a connection to the land, ancestors and local spirits. The practices: herbalism, divination, curses, protective magic, and working with the spirits of the nature of the dead. The examples are the British traditional witchcraft and folk magic. We have Wicca, a modern pagan religious movement founded by Gerald Gardner in the mid-20th century. It emphasises the worship of the god and goddess and a reverence for nature. The practices are rituals, sabbats, which are the seasonal festivals, esbats, which are the lunar rituals, spellcasting and working with the elements. We then have hedge witchcraft. This focuses on spiritual journeys or hedge crossing, a form of shamanism to connect with the spirit world. The practices are astral travel, spirit communication, herbalism and divination. The tools used are herbs, wands and personal altars. Kitchen witchcraft. This centres around the home and hearth, incorporating magic into daily life, especially through cooking and crafting. Practices are infusing meals with intention, creating magical household charms and using everyday items for spells. Green witchcraft focuses on nature and energies of plants, animals and the earth, using herbal magic, gardening, working with crystals and environmental healing. Eclectic witchcraft combines elements from various traditions and paths based on personal preferences and needs. Practices highly individual, drawing from Wicca, traditional witchcraft, shamanism or other sources. We have ceremonial magic, a highly structured and ritualistic form of witchcraft often involving complex rites and invocations. Practices involve working with angels, demons or other entities, sigil magic and sacred geometry. Traditions: Hermetism, Thelema and the Golden Dawn. Sea witchcraft, tied to the oceans, the tides and marine life, using seawater spells and sand in rituals, working with moon phases and water deities. Elemental witchcraft focuses on the four classical elements: earth, air, fire, water and their energies. Practices are balancing elemental energies, crafting spells and rituals tied to specific elements. Cosmic or astrological witchcraft works with celestial energies such as planets, stars and zodiac signs. The practices involve planetary magic, moon phase rituals and creating talismans aligned with astrological charts. Cultural witchcraft. Bajura, a practice from Latin American cultures blending indigenous, African and European traditions. Hoodoo, root work from African American traditions incorporating herbalism and ancestor worship. Shamanism, found in many indigenous cultures worldwide, involving spirit work and healing. And we then have pop culture witchcraft. This uses symbols, archetypes and energies from modern media like movies, books or music in magical practices. How this is practiced is by channeling the energy from the fictional character or universes as a form of personal empowerment. Occultism, in and of itself, is a lonely, isolating subject. There aren't many people, in the grand scheme of things, studying occultism or witchcraft. So to give yourself a label, and of course this is just my opinion, but to give yourself a label and to isolate yourself even further, is that a positive thing? I'd really love to hear your thoughts. If you are a Wicca, a pagan, a green witch, I'm definitely not a green witch, by the way. I really struggle to keep things alive. I'd really like to hear your comments and your experiences. And have you moved from one modality and moved on to another? Because we're all We are all able to change. Many ideas about deity. The Horned God of the Witches by Jason Mankey. Many ideas about deity. Witchcraft does not require a belief in gods, nor does it subscribe to any absolutes when it comes to religious or spiritual practice. For those who do believe in deity, there are a variety of cosmologists and explanations for that deity. Because the term Horned God means so many things to various witches, it's worth spending some time contemplating the many ideas held by today's witches when it comes to matters of deity. Now, of course, I'm reading from the Horned God of the Witches, so what you're going to learn in a minute doesn't just apply to the Horned God. I imagine it will apply to all of the deities that we work with within spiritualism. Polytheism. There are many witches today who are strict polytheists, which means they believe that individual deities are just that, individuals, and not a part of a greater whole. In other words, every deity who has ever been worshipped is unique unto themselves. Perhaps certain deities are related in some way, but they are related like you and I are related to our parents. Soft polytheism. Soft polytheism is a term reserved for those who look at deities as separate entities but still believe they might be related in some way. For example, we know that the gods Odin of Norse mythology and Woden of German mythology have a common ancestor, but a hard polytheist would say they are two different beings. A soft polytheist would argue the two are most likely the same god, just worshipped by two different names. As a soft polytheist, I think gods like Pan and Cernunnos are distinct beings who don't have much in common, but I also believe they might be related in some abstract way. The end result is a bigger deity who shares attributes with several other gods. This all sounds rather confusing, but I have to assume that deity is more powerful than we are, and very different too. I think our modern Horned God is a combination of several figures that have come together so that we might have a better understanding of them. The Billion Iti, or all gods are one god. There are many who believe that all the deities that have ever been worshipped are related in some way. At the very beginning was an unknowable power that started by dividing itself into various ways of being. Female, male, and all that lies between those two polarities. From there, those powers divided into more knowable forms. Deities we know by generic names, such as Maiden, Mother, Crone, Horned God, Sun God, and so on. In this sort of cosmology, all the various horned and antlered gods that have ever been worshipped are aspects of one greater horned god, who has chosen to reveal himself in various guises throughout the world. In India, he was Shiva. In Gaul, Cernunnos. In Rome, Faunus, and in Greece, Pan. The gods in this sort of construct are still somewhat distinct, but can be traced back to an original source. Duotheism. Many Wiccan witches are often accused of being duotheists. The idea is similar to the one above, the only difference being that there is one goddess and one god, who are each responsible for the various manifestations of male and female found throughout the world today. Much of the liturgy in Wicca sounds like duotheism, but I have yet to meet a Wiccan who actively self-identifies this way. It also limits sexuality to strict constructs of male and female, an idea no longer supported by science or the reality we live in. Energies. There are some witches who believe that deities are more akin to energies than to beings with a consciousness. When they invoke the Horned God, for example, they are invoking the wild energies of the earth for use in their magic or rituals. Gods as energies don't think like you or I do, but they can still affect our reality. For those who subscribe to this interpretation of deity, earth energies are natural things that exist around us, and to better understand them, we give them names and titles like the Horned God. The gods are manifestations of something else inside of ourselves. I know several witches who see figures like Horned God as something from inside of ourselves. To them, the horned god represents our relationship with the natural world, witchcraft and sex. He is a focus of rituals and rites, but his power comes from inside of us. According to this line of thinking, gods and goddesses are human constructs created to give us a sense of direction and purpose. The gods are not real and are not energies. There are very devout atheist witches and pagans in the world today. They don't believe in deities and don't even interpret those deities as the natural energies of the earth. Yet they will often use terms such as the horned god. In such instances, they are generally putting a poetic spin on references to the world's wild spaces and the mysteries of nature. To them, the horned god is a term that represents the wonder of the natural world and the mysteries of love, lust, and union. The witch world is wide and diverse, and there are as many interpretations of just what deity is as there are witches. When it comes to issues of theology, there are no absolutes. You might have found yourself nodding along with some of the ideas presented here, or perhaps your own beliefs are best represented by a combination of those ideas. There is no right or wrong, but just what works for you. And this is where I'm at with the world in general. There is no right and wrong, and there is no absolute. When all's said and done, witchcraft is one of the oldest religions dating back to Babylon. So regardless of the type of witch that you assign yourself to, it is a case of just you being you. And as you become you, and the more you evolve within your practice, you become a new you.